Can we welcome to the India Today conclave, our special guest at the last session of the India Today conclave is the Minister for Commerce and Industry, Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution and Textiles. I had to write it down so that I don't forget some of his portfolios. And if it takes so long to just read out the portfolios, imagine having to get all of that done. Are you finding it difficult to cope with all the portfolios and so much responsibility on your shoulders in terms of packing the day in and getting things done? Minister Goyal, welcome to the conclave.
No, as long as I'm able to do my job all right and end of the day reach your program before you wind up, I think everything is getting sorted and getting done. But I think it's a great opportunity that Honorable Prime Minister has given, and I'm grateful to him because he's kind of brought together areas which have a lot of synergy. For example, BIS is in consumer affairs. There was always this clamor that industry and Bureau of Indian Standards need to work together. We have textile, which is the largest job creator in the country. There was this need that industry, and we look at free trade agreements worldwide, get more market access for textiles. So there's a lot of synergy that he's tried to bring together.
So at this session at the India Today conclave, we're going to spend some time talking about the quality of economic recovery and the government's plans to speed up the economic growth process from here. And we have Minister Piyush Goyal. We also have TV Narendran, Global Managing Director of Tata Steel, President CII. We have Kunal Behel, Chief Executive of Snapdeal, and Sanjay Nair of KKR India. So, Minister Goyal, a big announcement yesterday by the government on Air India, the privatization finally going through. Are you hoping that this will, in some senses, be an inflection point for a lot of what the government was talking about for several years, which you now, on the back of the pandemic, hope you will finally be able to get done?
Yeah, in my previous engagement, where Mr. Narendran was also there, I complimented the Tatas for, in my humble view, as if I don my old hat as an investment banker, an absolutely wonderful buy. To my mind, the Maharaja is in safe hands, and now time for India to regain its glory in international aviation circles. And this was a move which, if I remember correctly, Arunji will recall. Mr. Arun Jaitley had made a remark which I read in the paper again today. He used to often say that if we don't disinvest Air India at that time, there'll be nothing left to disinvest. And in some sense, it came true. The government spending thousands of crores every year just to keep an airline going. And that's our taxpayer money, which could go for public welfare, which would go to create new infrastructure, which could go to promote industry. So I think Prime Minister Modi has truly demonstrated his ability to take strong decisions in the interest of India, for the good of the people of India, and has demonstrated to the world that he seriously means business when he says the government has no reason to be in business.
One of the challenges which was being spoken of is the lack of private consumption at this moment. And despite the fact that we're coming out of the pandemic, there would have been an expectation that there'd be a release of pent-up demand, which in some sectors there has been, but net, the macro picture seems to be that private consumption hasn't taken off yet. How is the government hoping to deal with that issue and try and encourage people to go out and consume?
All the statistics somehow don't seem to suggest what you are saying. The numbers of, after all, GST collection is a reflection of people spending. And the net collection in a GST regime, which is at the last stage of consumption, clearly only reflects consumption coming back into the market. The fact that industry, by and large, is almost running to capacity in all the main sectors. The PMI is high, the mood of the industry is very positive. Exports, I don't know if you are aware, we have touched $197 billion of export in the first 6 months. This was unheard of in India. It's the highest ever we've done in the first 6 months. And normally we all know that the first 6 months are slow. In addition to that, 3 of those months were the second wave of COVID. Toughest possible time. And we've done 197 billion, which in some sense is reflective of India's credibility worldwide. The fact that the world is now looking to India as a trusted partner. The world is wanting to engage more with India. And I can tell you, my own meetings or discussions with various world leaders from trade and economy suggest that they are very, very keen to expand our relations between India and other countries. We've launched FTA negotiations with UAE on the 22nd of September, with Australia on the 30th of September. Both are going on full stream ahead. With the UK, I was to possibly have a meeting on I will be meeting my counterpart there who's just come in a day after tomorrow. And then by November, we are hoping to launch FTA negotiations. EU we launched a couple of months back. We are looking at a possible FTA with a couple of more countries.
Do you have any commitments to timelines about when you hope to get some of these free trade agreements actually signed, sealed, and started?
UAE, almost certain will happen in the next 3 or 4 months, a full FTA. With Australia, we'll have an early harvest, an interim agreement with the contours of the larger agreement in place. Again, by January, they have actually set a deadline of 25th December. And both teams are working to that deadline. And I just got a message from the Australian minister that I'm looking forward to meet you and discuss further on our negotiations day after tomorrow. Tomorrow we are meeting, Tomorrow we are meeting. So the mood is to really fast track it. UK, November, once we launch, we plan to look for an interim agreement by March and do a final agreement by June or July. Canada was very keen to start discussions, but COVID hit first them, then us, then them, and the roller coaster went on. Then they got into election mode. That's just got over. Again, I got a message day before yesterday from the Canadian counterpart that she's looking forward to meet me day after tomorrow. So, and then I think we'll launch it very soon. Now that the elections are over, there's certainty over there, so we have time. And Canada, we have to just finalize whether it will be a full FTA or an interim early harvest agreement to get benefit of the low-hanging fruits. Why I'm sharing all this with you is that now we have to prepare Indian industry. We have to get ready, and that was what our earlier engagement was all about. I was talking to some 60 industry associations, ASCON it is called. CII has this body called ASCON. 60 sector-specific industry associations. Capital goods manufacturing, renewable energy, product manufacturing, machinery manufacturing, power, electrical goods manufacturing, cement manufacturing, steel, automobiles, auto components, every sector was there. And I can see the mood in Indian industry, particularly with a series of steps to help ease of doing business, to promote industrial manufacturing through the production-linked incentive scheme, the fact that we are trying to reduce compliance burden, 22,000 already done, many more in the annual, decriminalize several laws. I'm working now on legal metrology department, which is actually sounds simple, but people are facing a lot of problem from them, the weights and measures and stuff like that. So there's a lot that is happening. Prime Minister on Wednesday will be unveiling India's infrastructure plans going forward. And now we are not planning infrastructure in any haphazard manner anymore. Last few years, you must have noticed, every infrastructure project has to stand on its own legs, has to be viable, has to have an economic impact on industry or agriculture, whichever sector. There has to be a significant value add when we go into any particular infrastructure project. So a lot of work is happening, scientifically driven, technologically supported, to make Indian industry both competitive, quality conscious, working to scale, and becoming world class.
You spoke about the predictability of policy, and there's been minister furor in something that you've been handling, which is to do with e-commerce rules. And we've seen from the American Congress to American representatives a pushback against the lack of predictability and this sense that while on the one side you want global money in, but the government also has this nationalistic impulse of wanting to protect its core vote base and the voters who've typically and traditionally voted for the Bharatiya Janata Party. To what extent are you reacting to the global criticism of some of these e-commerce rules, and how do you address this concern about predictability of policy? That this is what the rules were when I came in, and that's what I hope they'll stay as we go along.
Just by the way, this is one government which has not done a single retrospective amendment in its 7.5 years in office. Not a single one. And I dare say I'd like anybody to reflect and tell me if we have done a single action which has a retrospective impact. On the contrary, we have right-sized what wrongs were done by the previous government. Point one. Point two, there is absolutely no retraction of any policy whatsoever when it comes to e-commerce rules, which are for consumer protection, under consideration and deliberation, or the FDI policy. We are reiterating what has been said many times over, that there has to be fair play, there has to be equity. Just like Mr. Narendran just said about when we do FTAs, we have to have a reciprocal arrangement and fair play. It's not about political vote banks. I'd like to correct you, Rahul. It's about livelihoods. And we have to ensure that we have an organized business environment in which everybody has equal opportunity. And that's the effort that is being sought to be done. The good part about this government is that everything we do is after a lot of consultation. Look at the new education policy. 5 years in the making. 2015 it came out. We had 200,000 issues on which feedback was received. Stakeholders from about 650 odd districts across the country gave feedback. All were responded to. Just like every other policy by and large that we make goes through extensive stakeholder consultation. And then we come up with, as they say, Amrit mein se, Manthan mein se Amrit nikalta hai. So in that sense, consultation is good for the system. Everybody's viewpoints come in, and then a robust decision can be taken. But I can assure you and all the stakeholders, there is no retrospective amendment. Everything is as it is, a reiteration of what it was always expected to.
Thank you for the free plug, much appreciated. That was very useful. So I want to thank Minister Piyush Goyal for coming to the India Today conclave and for sharing his insights. Minister Piyush Goyal, thank you so much. Can we have a warm round of applause, please? Thank you.